everybody. So Jon David had a 10 out of 10 day, and I know I haven't been doing these lately, but I kind of feel like I should. The pulmonary artery is the word of the day, and it is the other main artery. I know we've already done the aorta, but the pulmonary artery is the one that carries blood to the lungs to get oxygenated, whereas the aorta is the one that carries blood out to the body. And so those are the two greater arteries, which are part of his diagnosis of TGA, which is transposition of the greater arteries. They were flipped before they did the ASO, which is the arterial switch, to put them back where they're supposed to go. And so that's the word of the day, is pulmonary artery. He did not have any wings today due to withdrawals that he was having. They were not terrible, but the team did not want them to get terrible like they were last Friday, and so they were like, let's just give him a day to kind of reset, and we will probably continue wings tomorrow. However, today he did have some things that were done, one being a splint that got put on his left arm to open his hand a little bit more because of that perfusion injury on his left forearm. It has caused him to have a little bit of less range of motion and flexibility, and they don't want that to become a permanent issue. And so, and it's not a lot, it's just slightly diminished, but what they want to do is be a little proactive and try and get ahead of it rather than wait for it to become a big issue and then try and deal with it. So did the splints that way, it'll actually kind of open his hand a little bit more and actually bring his wrist back a little bit to stretch that forearm and those tendons that are underneath that injury. And that was done by OT, who saw him today, and along with the splint also did a few stretches with him, as well as Child Life, who came in and played with him some. And then Pop visited, and then he slept through the vast majority of the day because he had a busy morning with the splint being made and seeing everybody, as well as just having the withdrawals, which makes him sleepy. And then after that, this evening, we did some floor time. I got a mat and got him down there, and he was loving floor time. Like, it was the happiest he's been all day. I also took him for a withdrawal walk around the unit because he was getting a little waddy when he woke up from his nap, and saw a few people that wanted to see him, and he was awake and was chill. Once we started the withdrawal walk, which is actually one of the nurses here, Caroline, she was like, asked me what we're doing. I said, we're going for a walk because he's on withdrawal. She said, oh, a withdrawal walk. So I can't take full credit of that's her term, but definitely the withdrawal walk did him a lot of good. He was able to calm down really quickly, and we were able to see some friends and catch up with them. But Hunter had himself a good day at preschool, as well as having some fun with Gatlin this evening. That is his partner in crime, as Miss Danielle has said. When these boys get older, we're going to be in trouble. We're going to have to make sure they stay busy. But Mama Kay also visited tonight, spent the night with Hunter. Hunter also, one of the hard things with switching back and forth for him is not necessarily understanding, as a 3-year-old, he doesn't fully comprehend this whole situation, and truly doesn't necessarily comprehend the full thing of time either. But also, I think part of this conversation that I'm getting ready to have or I'm getting ready to tell you about between me and him, I think it has a lot to do with how the summer has gone with the complications and not seeing him for weeks at a time. But I left yesterday and told him that I was going to be back in 2 days, or that I would see him again in 2 days. And he was very insistent it was going to be 2 weeks. But in his defense, it has been quite a few times that it's been weeks between us seeing each other. And so he was having a bit of a hard time with it. However, all things considered, he's doing pretty well. But that, to me, has been one of the harder things to, on top of just dealing with complications, which, thankfully we're on a more traditional recovery right now and just kind of going through the withdrawals, and again, good problems to have. But just having an older child who wants to spend all that time with you, and you want to spend time with them because it's your kid, and as y'all have seen, Hunter and I have a lot of fun together. But it is really tough having to essentially kind of separate that and have to put him through all of that repeatedly. The good news is, hopefully with this new setup, it won't be quite so long in between times seeing him, and hopefully he'll adjust better with just seeing Mallory and myself every couple of days. So also, kind of the whole spiel with that is that basically there's this constant fluidity with everything we've got going on. If one of us gets sick, or if something happens, or plans might change just for logistics, or whatever the reason may be, like having to essentially be constantly fluid with what days might happen and things like that. That also, for us as teachers, is not something that we're used to. We've gotten used to it over the last half year, but more so with teachers, like we are used to having plans and then following the plans, and that's not necessarily what this life living in the hospital is about. You have to essentially just be fluid and kind of go with the flow of everything that happens. If y'all would pray for these 3 things: 1, that Jon David will continue to tolerate his wounds and he'll continue progressing forward. I've had several people over the last couple of days talk about, being back at work and things like that, saying how hard it must be having to be here for longer, and then also even coming back here, talk about how it must be hard having to stay here for such a long time and have so much longer in front of us, because it's going to take a long time to wean him off all of these drugs. But again, these are good problems to have. Like, if he has to go slow, we'll go slow. It'll be all right. At this point, we have spent 6+ months here. If we have to stay an extra 6 weeks, at this point, that's not a huge deal to us, given the fact that we've had all the other complications, like the 4 cardiac arrest and all the additional surgeries. And I mean, we were planning on coming in and having 2 surgeries, and we are now 9 deep. So again, all things considered, this kind of comes back to some perspective. I actually was reading a story about this today, about a brother who sent his sister a worst day at work. She was complaining about her job was tough, and then he sent her a message saying that he's an underwater welder, and that the way that they heat the suits when they're really deep and in the cold water is by having this machine that sucks the water out and then warms it up and sends it back down to their wetsuits. And it had sucked up a jellyfish and gotten in there and gotten in his butt crack and then stung him repeatedly. And he could not get up based on the decompression times that he had to get up. It took like 40 minutes for him to get up. And when he finally got up there, he was swollen shut and had some issues for several days after that. And it's like, that was his worst day at work. So I think the whole point of that story is that while for a lot of people spending 6 weeks in the hospital would be like absolutely awful and just kind of the end of like, oh my gosh, like that would be the worst thing possible, for us at this point it's kind of like, that's not terrible given what we've gone through and also what we've seen some of our friends go through, because we're not the only ones here who've gone through complications, and like we just have the perspective of, it's not that bad. It could be worse, and we've seen it get worse, and so we just kind of try to keep that perspective when things aren't going perfectly or as planned. And when I say it's good problems to have, like the withdrawals, they're good problems to have because they have solutions that we can find. And so just trying to find those solutions when it's a problem like that, or even a normal everyday problem, kind of like the brother was telling his sister about her worst day at her job was, I think, some drama involved. But for those things, pretty easy solutions if we just put our foot forward and put the effort forward. Those are not that hard. When it's like some of the complications that he's had, there's very little as his parents that we have control over, and being able to find solutions to those problems. When it's withdrawals, I can take him on a withdrawal walk, and that fixes it 90% of the time. So again, good problems to have. Sorry for that rant and that tangent, but I just felt like I needed to share that, because I've been told multiple times also by staff here and also people back home, Mallory has as well, about how it has been very inspirational to watch us go through all of this, and that we've composed ourselves really well. And again, I want to reiterate that is all due to God. He's been with us through this. We've prayed for this, and without his presence, without his help, without the community of people around us who have been there for us and who are also followers, I really can't tell you that if we did not have him, and if we did not have our Christian community, I truly don't know how we would have gotten through this. I don't know that we would have gotten through this. So again, sorry for all those tangents. It just felt like I needed to say all this tonight. Hold on, he's crying. Let me be right back. And then continuing past the rants, if you would pray for number 2 for all of those who've lost loved ones, especially those who have lost children. And then if you would 3, pray for all of the kids and families who are battling congenital heart defects, because again, this is a never-ending fight. As long as our children live, we will have to monitor this and figure out what interventions may or may not be needed, medications, catheterizations, surgeries. So again, if you would please pray for all those families because this is not an easy journey for anybody. But that's all I got for y'all tonight. Hope you have a good night and God bless, and y'all continue to choose hope daily.